So where's the architecture in Agile? Well, these days, a better question might be, with architecture, what is architecture at all? Because component orientation, the way software has gone, and the open source revolution, mean that these days, actually, a lot of the structuring elements, which are seen as architecture 2 or 3 generations ago, are really being devolved and tools for reuse as frameworks, containers, or libraries of many different sorts. Containers are particularly important and interesting because really they're relatively new, maybe 10 years in terms of mainstream take-up. So what do I mean by a container? A good example would be, of course, if you write in Java, a servlet container. What does that do? Essentially what it does is it runs something which satisfies a particular interface. It provides top-down structure, certain services and an environment and context which allow a developer to write much simpler code. So, to serve a request and produce a response, which is what's encapsulated within a servlet container. That is essentially the architecture, and if you don't like that architecture, you shouldn't use the container, because that's what it does. Encapsulated within the container is a particular view of how the architecture should work. You may or may not agree with it, but if you use a container, you subscribe to that architectural viewpoint. So these days, architecture is both more important and less visible, because the choices you make in containers, libraries and frameworks really determine the architecture which your software will be working under.